figured it out. This cover, I know what it is of now. It's of HuaLian and Huachong filing a restraining order against Jun Wu. Or Bai Wusheng, or the Prince of Wuyong, or all of the above. Hey, it's Romania Black, and we are on part 71 of our look at Heaven Official's Blessing. Volume 7, chapters 220 to 222. Yeah, so I went back. It's been about a week since I've read the last set of chapters, because I'm going to be honest, chapters 216 and 219, it was like the basement from Attack on Titan on steroids. It was a big old exposition dump. I was like, oh my god, it was a lot. My brain was fried. My discussion was all over the place. And I'm like, I need to go back and reread these chapters. I've taken a week off before I dive into this next set. So that's where I was at. So yes, going back and rereading, damn, there are a lot of similarities between Jun Wu and HuaLian, especially like the fact that Jun Wu spent 3 years prepping the bridge. HuaLian was ascended for 3 years. The fact that everything post the bridge collapsing with Jun Wu and post the fall of Shanla mirroring itself with how Mu Qing and Feng Xin left HuaLian, with how the other disciples left, well, the 3 left Jun Wu. And then I don't like to say that Mei NianQing are Miao Miao Guoshi. I don't want to say that him and Huachong are exactly alike. They are not. They are very different. But they both tried and have supported Jun Wu, although Mei NianQing eventually left and ran away, and Huachong stuck by his side. So definitely some differences there. And I do like how Huachong is like, well, HuaLian is not like Jun Wu, and Mei NianQing's like, well, he was very similar. And then we found out all about the Reverend of Empty Words, the fact that Mei NianQing was watching over Shi Wudu and Shi Qiangqin, and the fact that the Yilian Bridge, the Body in Abyss, Heart in Paradise, that was the icing on the cake that just ticked off Jun Wu's press the wrong button, and here we are. So we kind of left on a cliffhanger, but yeah, I needed a solid week to process everything that happened, and I'm sure people are gonna have lots of comments about little things that I missed, stuff that came up. There was so much going on. I was like, oh my god, MXTX, why? MXTX, you gotta spread this exposition out. You can't just throw a grenade and have it blow up in our face. You gotta like give us little sparklers and have that happen. But yeah, so I poured a cup of coffee. I've got some comments. There's no Manhwa chapter this week. It's gonna come next week, so we'll have that to look forward to. But oh my god. And we're entering the final third of the book, so volume 7. I don't have volume 8 yet. It's on its way in the mail, so I might have it by the time that I do next week's chapters. I have been told I ordered the special edition because go big or go home, right? Like if I'm gonna have the final edition of volume 8, I'm gonna have the special edition, of course. But I've been told by my moderators that there are some extra materials that come with volume 8 that might be spoilery if you get the special edition. So what I'm gonna do is, as soon as I get the volume, I'm gonna open up and do the cover reveal with you all. Then I'm gonna take all the extras and just put them to the side and not worry about them until the end of the novel. And then once we get to the end of volume 8, I'll get them out and show them to you all, and we can look at them and be like, oh, that was so fun. And that's gonna be kind of torturous for me not to look at for the next however many weeks we spend with volume 8, but it's gonna be worth it. So that's where I'm at. But yeah. So that's my plans anyway with volume 8. I'm going to look at the cover, unreveal the cover with y'all because I have not seen the cover. I'm going to reveal it with you all. It's going to be a fun time. And then I'm going to put the extra stuff aside and not worry about it until the end of the volume. That's the plan. But I do have some comments before we start with this set of chapters, these 3 chapters that we're going to look at. SQQLBH314 talked about how the rooftop jumping scene with HuaLian back several chapters ago could refer not only to him catching Huachong as a child, but also when him and Wu Ming were rooftop jumping on the way to go kill Long Ying in Yong'an. Yeah, could definitely relate to that back in book 4. Yushi and Huachong's plan to infiltrate the Heavenly Realm. SQQLBH314 is talking about how it was mainly Yushi's plan to like do all these things. I kind of like to imagine it the other way around because I think Yushi would have been fine with whatever. Yushi seems like a team player. She seems like she'd do whatever somebody suggested. So I thought it would be like Huachong being like, look, I'm going to dress as a farmer. And she was like, okay. And then I like the idea of thinking that Huachong was like, and then we'll put a radish in the box and give it to Jun Wu and he'll think it's something special. And she's like, okay. I just feel like went along with it and was like, IDK, I guess this will work, right? That's how I imagine it anyway. And then the radish. I liked SQQLBH314's idea that the radish, like, had it not been chewed up by the fetus spirit and then chucked at function, it would have been nice to see it be used for, as they call it, the long live the king stew. I'm telling you, that got my mind going. And I still think Qi Rong could cause so much chaos in the heavenly realm. He's in the little Daruma form. He's there. Yin Yu had him on his person. That Daruma could be anywhere right now. We don't know. Jun Wu doesn't know. Or maybe Jun Wu has him, but I swear, it would make my day if HuaLian, all I want by the end of this story is for Jun Wu to be like tied up in a chair, and I want HuaLian to make one of his concoctions. Him and Qi Rong work as cousins together, make this concoction, and then feed it to Jun Wu and have him like throw it up. I need this in my life, right? I need it in my life. And plus, I mean, would Qi Rong want to work with his cousin? No, not necessarily. Would he work with his cousin to get at Jun Wu, the supreme, or aka Bai Wusheng, the supreme ghost? Hell yes, he would. So, I mean, it could happen. I can dream, right? I do feel bad for Jun Wu a little bit as the Prince of Wuyang. I feel bad because that whole story was horrible. But, you know, killing your best friends and then going off the deep end, what do we do about that? But it's the idea, like I said last week, that Jun Wu was alone. And HuaLian's never been alone because he's had Hua Chong. So there you go. Anime Annie talked about how the fetus spirit spat the radish at Feng Xin after his mom told him that radishes are for poor bastards and silly gods, which fits Feng Xin quite adequately. And then I've been told through the Discord, and I'm Romania Black is a sweet summer child, but I did not realize that Jean Lan had been sold to the brothel of the Yong'an people. I didn't realize that. When Qi Rong says it back, whatever chapter he says it in, I remember saying in the discussion that, well, yeah, that could be, but we don't know because it's Qi Rong. Qi Rong exaggerates a lot of things. He doesn't necessarily tell the truth half the time. So who are we to know if that was right or wrong? But then they pointed out that in the last set of chapters, which there's a lot going on. You're gonna have to forgive me if I miss a detail or two. But they were talking about how there were subtle little clues about how Feng Xin was trying to buy her freedom and to buy her back, which ties to him trying to get the money from HuaLian, but all that stuff was going on. HuaLian didn't put two and two together, like I didn't put two and two together. And so then that begs the question of, well, why would she think that that was a bad thing that he was trying to buy her freedom? Shouldn't that be a romantic gesture? Shouldn't she be happy if he's trying to buy her freedom? But the thing about it is, you know, is it one of those things where she didn't want him to waste his time on her? She has such a bad self-esteem or bad view of herself that she's like, well, he's a heavenly official. Why would he want to spend his money and time on me? Aren't I an eyesore since I'm a slave? Blah, blah, blah. And that's going to be part of, in my opinion, Feng Xin's test to be like, would you sacrifice being a heavenly official and a god to go after a woman that was sold into slavery that had like this ghostly child of yours? That's now like this demon. Would you give all of that accolade up for her and your kid? I think he will. I think he will, but that's going to be the test, right? That's going to be the test. And then I was talking about it with Anime Annie. MXTX, a few chapters ago, I was like, did we have any prior inkling that the fetus spirit was the one singing the song in volume 1? And Anime Annie's like, no. MXTX just dropped that bomb on us like it was nothing. I was like, yeah, they just mentioned it like it's so casual. Like you just, oh, here's my toast for breakfast. Here's a detail from 6 volumes ago you haven't been thinking about. And I'm like, what? That's why these last set of chapters just came out from nowhere. And we're just like, it's been a lot to process. And we're not even done yet. So that's the thing. It's like MXTX decided, you know what? You've spent 7 volumes wanting to know secrets. We're going to give you all the tea, all the gossip in volume 7, and then volume 8 is going to be how we resolve everything. Hope you're ready. And the answer is I'm not, but I don't have a choice. So, yeah, oh my God. I don't know how we're defeating Jun Wu because he seems pretty insanely strong. Bai Wusheng could be a byproduct of him. We're going to find that out. There's still some mystery with the Supremes. Heshon is like just keeping, away from everything, not surprisingly. But yeah, I was telling the mods that I'm really sad that we're about to get near volume 8, which is the last volume of Heaven Official's Blessing. But we still have the Donghua, we still have the audio drama, we still have the live action at some point. So unlike Modao Zushi, where towards the end of the story I was getting really, really sad, I'm not really sad yet because there's so much left of the Heaven Official's Blessing world that I still have yet to encounter. But it is crazy that we're in the final third of volume 7 already. Crazy town. So yeah, I'm excited, y'all, but I have no clue what to expect at this point. We just know that this was the turning point. We're on chapters 220, 222. There better be a picture because there's no manual chapter to back it up. So we'll just have to see what happens. But in any case, I'm super excited. Thank you guys so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it, but we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to start chapters 220 to 222 of Heaven Official's Blessing, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's see what fresh fun we get. Chapter 220, The White Emperor Sets Life and Death Riddles in Secret. What? HuaLian clenched his fists, his breathing going erratic. Just that phrase. It sounded so unbelievable, laughable even, but he couldn't laugh at all. The Guoshi said, "There's more besides those monsters. Your Highness, do you remember that child you saved at the bottom of the city wall? And how I was so shocked after you brought him up to the Royal Holy Pavilion?" Oh, we're getting into Huachong stuff right now. HuaLian snapped back and swiftly stole a glance at Huachong. "I remember. What's with that child? You said he was a star of solitude." The Guoshi exclaimed. He said darkly, "At the time, I only felt that small child was covered too heavily with the essence of evil, too incredibly abnormal. It was only after I'd confronted the other 3 at the kiln that I learned. Not only could the kiln produce monsters, it could also curse. Just as you could disperse your fortune, the kiln could dispel the misfortunes it had accumulated. After they'd been released, they could rampage everywhere. That small child's birth was already extremely perilous. If his fate was fortunate, then it'd be the best of fortunes. If it was vicious, it'd be the worst of misfortunes. The day he was born, he probably absorbed all the dispelled misfortunes, which was how he became so terrifying. The moment he came up, all of Mount Taisang was almost burnt to the ground by him." The more HuaLian listened, the more alarmed he became. He slowly turned his head, gazing towards Huachong. Oh my God. They were clearly discussing his own affairs. Huachong's expression didn't change. He instead gave HuaLian a smile. The Guoshi continued. "Based on past examples, the parents of that child must die early. If they don't, they would be disgusted with or abandon that child. He would suffer endless abuse, so it would actually be better if his parents are dead. And he wouldn't live past 18, and would also cause those around him to die, to separate, to suffer misfortunes, as if disaster itself was reborn. That's why at the time I told you to quickly get rid of him, not to get too close." HuaLian couldn't listen anymore. "Master, please don't say any more." Guoshi nodded. "I'll stop. I was just giving you an example, telling you how scary the kiln is." Oh my God! So yeah, it is connected to Huachong. HuaLian didn't know what to say, but Huachong chuckled. "It's not as scary as it seems. But Guoshi is really quite accurate in his readings." When HuaLian thought that Huachong probably really didn't live past 18, his hands trembled lightly. Just then, a hand came reaching forward and gently covered the frosty back of his hands. Both of his hands were equally icy, but after they were stacked one over the other, there was warmth. "He had always been settling riddles for you to test you," the Guoshi said. "The human face disease of Shanla was the first question. As long as you chose to unleash the human face disease against Yong'an back then you would have passed. Not only would he not have banished you, he would have even helped you cover it up, and truly turned you into his trusted heir, taking one step to reach the top of the heavens while taking 2 steps against it, but you answered wrong. During the period when you were banished, he should have set another riddle for you, but you still didn't give him a satisfactory answer, so the moment you ascended, you were immediately beaten back down." A pale, smiling mask appeared in HuaLian's mind. After a pause, he said quietly, "It was actually my own request." Huachang said, "Gege, trust me, even if you didn't request it, he'd have thousands of ways to send you back down." "But White No-Face was beaten by him too," HuaLian said. "But he didn't die," Huachang said. "Then why go through all the trouble?" HuaLian asked. "Of course White No-Face could kill you," Guoshi said. "But what he wanted wasn't to kill you. In fact, I already said he really likes you, and he didn't want you to die at all. He only wanted you to turn into someone he wanted you to become." Huachang also added, "Killing you won't achieve that end. If you died in that state, then you would never change, and he'd be able to accept that even less. But White No-Face had no reason to let you go so easily, and what better way to solve this than to have the Heavenly Martial Emperor descend to the mortal realm to dispel evil and save you from the brink of danger. With this, you would also become even more trusting and grateful to him. But he failed twice. He must have been extremely vexed. The second time you were banished and drifted into the mortal realm, he had countless opportunities to slowly educate you. Slowly wait until you've changed your mind," the Guoshi said. "Based on my observation, he had calmed down since, but this calm was disrupted recently. The reason being your third ascension. If you were a puddle of rotten mud, then whatever. But you, even after you've become like that, completely ignoring everything he's planned for you, you were actually still able to ascend for a third time, and still the same as before, completely unchanged. I don't know what he thought when he saw you, but I felt he would definitely set out more riddles to test you. It's obvious, seeing all that he's done afterwards," Huachang said. "Gege, think back well. What's happened since you been ascended for the third time?" "Getting some answers." HuaLian quickly got into a gear, and after a moment of contemplation, he said, "Well, the first incident was Mount Yujun, taking down the female ghost Shanji. At first, I didn't find the ghost bride, and it was the fetus spirit who guided me halfway through with a nursery rhyme. I imagined that he was under his instruction, but I thought he was helping me with that case." "Helping you finish the mission, that's all," Huachang said. "The direct consequence was the seizing of the female ghost Shanji, but what about the indirect consequences?" HuaLian ventured, "Stabbing the beehive that is General Pei's old relationship drama and bringing him some small trouble." "This could be considered a small riddle, I think," the Guoshi said. "If you had known that you'd offend Pei Ming, would you have managed this case of the ghost bride differently? For example, inform Pei Ming secretly to have him suppress the affair. Let Shanji continue to keep causing small trouble in a small area and not let things get out of hand or something." HuaLian sweated. Well, to be honest, it was a long time before I learned that this had something to do with General Pei. At the time, the female ghost was taking hostages, and with so many people present, the arrow on the bow had to shoot. There was no time to think about whether anything would offend anybody." Huachang smiled. "Gege, you were already making a decision then." He continued to analyze. "The second incident. An empty-shelled cultivator came to Pucci Shrine and lured you to Banyu Pass. Let's skip on... No! Let's skip on who sent that shell first! Well, now, Mother Trucker! You were supposed to answer that for us! Damn it, MXDX. What was the consequence of this case?" Can't believe that. "General Pei Jr. was kicked out, and thus one of General Pei's arms was snapped," HuaLian answered. "Gege, you see, after those two incidents, you helped him greatly weaken Pei Ming's strength, and you thoroughly offended Pei Ming at the same time. He didn't show his face at all. All the grudges came to you, and you had to be grateful to him still." Huachang added, "If I'm not wrong, in those 800 years, he didn't slack on watching you, Gege. He probably knew that you were once a Guoshi in Yongin, and also taught Lan Zhanchu. Yet he still sent Lan Zhanchu on a mission with you. From my point of view, this was done purely out of malintent." The Guoshi was surprised. "Wait a second, Your Highness. You went to Yongin and took up the position of Guoshi? You taught Lan Zhanchu before?" "Yeah," HuaLian replied. "You were the Guoshi Feng Shin?" The Guoshi questioned. Is something the matter?" HuaLian asked, and he gave a brief account. The Guoshi replied, "If he knew about this, then he must be furious with you." Huachang continued, "The case with the Reverend Empty Words, Gege, you didn't want to be involved at first, but in the end you were still pulled in, thankfully not too deeply. The hundreds of fishermen in the South Sea that were dragged into the heavenly calamity, that wasn't Blackwater or Shi Wudu's doing. But beside those two, who was the most capable in doing so? Only after each incident was laid out in the open did HuaLian realize every step he took after his return was perhaps under the close watch and push of Jun Wu. Yeah, except tell us about the damn puppet. HuaChang crossed his arms. I'm assuming that he's doing this because on the one hand, it's because of that perverted mentality. To keep throwing riddles at you to test you and see what path you would choose, hoping you would go down the road that he paved for you. On the other hand, it was also probably for using you as a sword to cut down the powers of those heavenly officials. The heavenly officials of the previous heavenly dynasty must have left an extremely dark psychological shadow in his mind. He's extremely vigilant, needing absolute control over everything, permitting none to threaten his power and status, and allowing no heavenly officials to catch up to him. And I think HuaLian was also thinking over the same points. What? HuaChang said that Shi Wudu changed Shi Qingchang's fate, and that Blackwater had infiltrated the heavens to investigate. Could he really not have known anything about it? HuaLian also thought this. Could Jun Wu, who sat on the highest chair, really have known nothing? Not very plausible. All the reports and scrolls that passed through Ling Wen's hands could be directly examined by him, so if there were any forgeries, how could he not notice anything amiss? Perhaps he had noticed from the very beginning. Only back then the status of the Water Master hadn't yet threatened him, so nothing was exposed. If it was exposed early on and Shi Wudu was banished, then a new Water Master would ascend. The new Water Master might not have such a huge transgression to be seized upon as needed. The Water Master committed such a heinous crime, almost deceiving the world, but he lived peacefully for many years. Yet it just had to be when he started dominating the heavenly court that he was exposed. His head plucked by Heshan. If Jun Wu wanted to get rid of the Water Master, he didn't need to use his own hands at all. He only needed to watch quietly as the Water Master became more and more outrageous, arrogant, and fearless, and when Shi Wudu breached the line of his tolerance, the affair with Switching Fate was leaked to Heshan. Of course, Heshan would go and avenge himself and his deceased family. HuaChang said, as from gathering millions of ghosts in the kiln to birth a new supreme, it was probably because HuaLian came to and said to create balance. Yeah, HuaChang said. He was probably delighted to see a malicious supreme born to cause havoc in the mortal realm. As long as there are creatures causing havoc in the mortal realm, there will be people praying. As long as there are devotees praying, then the spiritual powers of a god would become even stronger. The Guoshi sighed. Every time the kiln opens its gates, us four would go to stop it. But we were successful every time. This time, things have gotten even more out of hand. Those resentful spirits of Wu Yang, he killed a few, but sent the majority away with a distance-shortening array, and then sent everyone else away while he himself remained behind to inspect and destroy some things. He figured I would go find you, so after taking care of Mount Tonglu, he rushed over, and sure enough, he captured me first. I thought, things can't go on like this anymore. The kingdom of Wu Yang has resurfaced, and with this high caution, it was most likely time to change the dynasty in the heavenly realm again. If you all continued to suspect nothing, then sooner or later you would have all been buried under the heavenly capital as foundation. So it just so happened that Feng Xin, that little brat, brought Hong Jing, so I gave it my best shot. Originally, his spiritual powers had grown stronger and stronger, and Hong Jing could no longer reflect the things on his face, but since he had only just battled with those 3 mountain spirits, the human faces were tearing through again. I've pretty much covered everything. Do you have anything else you want to ask, Your Highness? Well, I have a lot of things that we should ask, but I guess that's not important. HuaLian was still pensive when HuaChang spoke up. I do, Guoshi, do you still remember your Wu Yang tongue? The kingdom of Wu Yang has long been forgotten, and no one uses its words or languages anymore. Myself and my 3 friends have long since learned a new tongue, otherwise we wouldn't be able to fathom what His Highness was planning to do, and dealing with that mess of monsters and demons would be a pain too. The language is still remembered, just very rarely used now. I really don't want to use it either. HuaLian remembered, and turns out at the time when Guoshi told the mountain spirit His Highness is beyond saving, almost awakened, he wasn't really referring to him. He was referring to the white no-face who was possessing Long Ying, killing as he went to suck in powers to recover. For the corpse-eating rats that spewed human words, there really was a hint in the number of possible candidates who infected him with their memories. And it was in fact 2 hits, Jun Wu and the white no-face. and within the cave of 10,000 gods, to make fake skins of Feng Shen and Mu Qing was most definitely not anything hard for White No-Face. Because, of course, Jun Wu knew them very well. He always wanted to lead me to believe that I'm the Crown Prince of Wuyong himself, or that I'm part of his soul, HuaLian said. Of course he does, the Guoshi replied. Since the existence of Wuyong could no longer be hidden, anyone who saw the Crown Prince of Shanla and the Crown Prince of Wuyong would think the two were very alike. So it was the perfect solution to lead it all back to you. Besides, as long as you start doubting yourself, doubting your true heart, your actions and objectives, then it'd be easy for him to lead you in the direction he wanted. If you thought I'm the Crown Prince of Wuyong, the possibility of you repeating his fate would be greater. He was leading you proactively, hoping to make you walk the same paths he did. So it wasn't your paths, it wasn't that your paths were somehow destined to be similar. He simply couldn't tolerate how similar you both were, but still walked different paths. After a long while, Huachong spoke up. I already said they aren't alike at all. Guoshi turned to him. You, young man, what's wrong with you? HuaLian was startled and thought, what's wrong? It was as if the Guoshi couldn't hold back up any longer, and he rolled up his sleeve, speaking to Huachong with a somber and heavy tone. I've been wanting to say this since earlier. You, young man, how come your smile isn't sincere at all? Don't you think just because you're a Supreme Ghost King that you can be impolite towards me? Sure, Supreme Ghost Kings are rare, but do you know how old I am? Of course it's an elder like me with such age who is the more rare. Huachong raised his brows. HuaLian rubbed his forehead. Master, it's not that San Long is impolite. It's just... He was just too used to smiling fakely at others. Guoshi made a hand gesture to Huachong, telling him not to come over before pulling HuaLian aside. He said seriously, Your Highness, I saw it. Huh? What did you see? On top of that giant divine statue. The giant divine statue? What happened on top of it? HuaLian thought for a bit before suddenly his brain buzzed. He had borrowed spiritual powers! HuaLian coughed nonstop. No, it was not that it was like borrowing spiritual powers, but no, actually it wasn't just borrowing spiritual powers. In any case, it's just... The Goshi's voice became even more somber. Your Highness, what's going on? Could it be because you've been cultivating for so long and avoided women that you've changed your ways? HuaLian waved his hand crazily. It's not anything like that! The Guoshi was doubtful. Then, could it be a trait from birth? Well, I never noticed. All right, well, this part of you certainly isn't like him. Wait, HuaLian said, oh, that's not it either. The Guoshi puffed a breath and sighed. Oh, don't be afraid, Your Highness. I wasn't going to lecture you anything. I won't guide you on something that I myself am not an expert in. Besides, you've already come through after so much. What's there left to worry about? Men or women, it doesn't matter, as long as you yourself are happy. HuaLian rubbed his forehead so much it was very red, and he said in a small voice, I'm very happy. However, Guoshi added in glum confusion, but after searching for 800 years, how did you end up finding a Supreme Ghost King? HuaLian was taken aback. The Guoshi said, I'm not saying you've got bad taste. It's not bad. I'm sure big girls and little maidens all like this type too. But a Supreme Ghost King is very aggressive, I'm telling you. Your Highness, you have to think things through, all right? Once people like that cling on to you, you can forget about ditching them. Master, hold on. I'm absolutely right on this. I'm telling you, by the looks of this Crimson Rain-sought flower, I can tell his fortune must be twistedly, contortedly fierce, each mountain higher than the next, the essence of evil smotheringly suffocating. It's practically like... Huachong was right behind them and said lazily, practically like the Star of Solitude, right? HuaLian was already desperately trying to stop Guoshi from talking, but he still didn't succeed, so he covered his face and silently shuffled back behind Huachong. Huachong smiled and circled his arm around him, raising his brows. My smile certainly is quite insincere. But to tell to the face of the man himself that he is the Star of Solitude, disaster reborn, the worst of misfortunes, his parents both dead, unable to live past 18, it's not very nice, is it? Guoshi his eyes slowly widened. You are! Ah! He didn't know it was him this whole time? I thought he knew, and he was just mocking him. What? Chapter 221, Meet the Ghost King, hiding in the palace of the Crown Prince. This time, Huachong's smile wasn't fake. On the contrary, it was even brighter. The Guoshi was stunned and he raised his hands, pointing at him. It's you, that child, you're that child! His finger and voice was practically shaking. Huachong was cheerful and didn't speak, but his face was clearly written with, "That's right, I'm the Star of Solitude himself that almost burnt down Mount Taisang." The Guoshi turned to man. "Your Highness, what is going on? Explain a little." HuaLian opened his hands and shrugged, smiling slyly. "It's just as you see." The Guoshi was completely shocked. He slapped the back of his right hand into his left palm a few dozen times, and it was a moment before he could finally speak. You see, I told you so. I told you Supreme Ghost Kings shouldn't be so easily provoked. He's been coming onto you from such a young age, such ghastly persistence. It's been, what, 800 years? 800 years! He's been stalking you for 800 years. It's scary, too scary. My fortunes are really too accurate. Oh, please, Master, please drop it. Let's not talk about this anymore, HuaLian pleaded. He thought inwardly, you haven't even seen the divine statues that fill the entirety of the Cave of 10,000 Gods. If he saw it, he'd probably take Huachong for a savage beast of floods, some mad, insane ghost. He'd stuff HuaLian under his arm and run away. The Guoshi still hadn't recovered from his shock. No, he's too scary like this. This is such a deep obsession and calculation, Your Highness. You must be absolutely careful. You'd be easily taken advantage of like this. Be cautious of him deceiving you. San Long wouldn't do that, HuaLian said. Huachong also said dryly, My lord thinks too much. I'd deceive anyone but His Highness. Huachong doesn't actually address Mei NianQing by his title. The change is intended to show that both HuaLian and Huachong have been using the honorific you throughout the interaction with Mei NianQing. It's the only time in the book that Huachong uses it towards someone who is not HuaLian. The Guoshi leaned over to argue. You cunning young man, don't think I can't tell. Aren't you exactly using the fact that His Highness isn't too learned in this aspect? Why don't you tell me right now, to my face, how spiritual power is lent? How many ways can be lent? How do you lend it? What did you tell His Highness? HuaLian started yelping and cried random noises. All right, let's let it go. It doesn't matter how, as long as it's lit, right? It's all the same. If they continued on this subject, he wasn't going to start flapping. He was going to start flapping like a duck being boiled. HuaLian suddenly turned serious. So let's talk about serious business. Right now, he's locked up here and hasn't made a move. What is he planning? He's probably thinking of setting another riddle for you, Huachong said. How would it be done, though? HuaLian wondered. That's hard to say, the Guoshi said. To be honest, anything is possible. Your Highness, don't change the subject. I'm giving you advice. Don't let perversions confound your mind or be deceived by pretty words. I say he's just then, Huachong said darkly. Gege, someone's come. Don't think you can lie to me, Guoshi said. I'm not easily deceived like His Highness. But HuaLian said, Master, he's not lying to you. Someone really is coming. Let's hide first. Then, together with Huachong, the two of them lightly pushed off with their feet and leapt onto the beam on the ceiling, hiding away. It wasn't long before the sound of messy footsteps came from the outside chamber. A man kicked the door open and laughed wildly in pleasure. The heavenly realm was nothing! Didn't this still have to be stepped on under this ancestor's feet in the end? No! Oh, you're shitting me! What? My dogs are crazy! What? The moment he heard this voice, they all became speechless. A green-robed man came swaggering in from the outside! And it wasn't it indeed Qi Rong, who they hadn't seen for days! It seemed not only did Jun Wu lock up all the heavenly officials, but he'd let loose all the monsters and demons, that those creatures could actually loiter and rampage the streets of the heavenly capital so freely! This is practically the toppling of reason, exceedingly bizarre. The Guoshi didn't think it'd be Qi Rong either, and he stiffened. Qi Rong pointed at him and yelled, Oh, you freaking Guoshi, freaking old man, undying old man! Remember how you looked down on me and wouldn't take me for a disciple? What do you think now? A slap in the face, right? It's karma. You deserve that kind of end. From behind him peeked a timid little head. It was Guzi. It was probably the first time Guzi had entered such a sumptuous building, and his eyes were wide, looking all over like he wanted to secretly feel those jaded bricks, but he didn't dare. Qi Rong was proud and pleased. Good son, do you see? This here is the heavenly realm, and now it's your daddy's domain! Guzi was shocked. Really, Dad? This place is so big. Of course! Qi Rong exclaimed. If you don't dare to believe me, watch. Pshoo, pshoo, pshoo. I'll spit wherever I please, and who dare to tell me off? Guoshi hesitated for a moment, but still whispered, Dad, it's not very good to spit on the ground. It's so beautiful and clean here, you'll dirty it. Qi Rong was stumped. The Guoshi couldn't hold back any longer either. Take a look at yourself. How are you teaching kids? How old are you now and you still don't know how to be a good role model? Even kids are more mature than you. To be lectured from both sides, Qi Rong's embarrassment turned into anger and he jumped up cussing, Oh, you freaking old man! What the hell do you know? Pretending to be some elder. I won't allow you to both discipline me. And you! How dare you speak to your old man like this, you ungrateful brat? Guoshi got scolded and stopped making sounds aggrievedly. After Qi Rong was done yelling, he then very guiltily wiped up the spit he spat with his feet, pretending as if nothing had happened, and then he cursed and cussed as he dragged Guoshi out. Before he left, he even wrote a line in big letters upon the most conspicuous wall of the Palace of Ling Wen. The #1 ghost king of the 3 realms, the Green Ghost Qi Rong was here! Ah! After Qi Rong had exited the Palace of Ling Wen, the blue Daruma doll HuaLian had tucked away in the sleeve fell out, landing in front of the wall that was written with those big words. And the spit mark Qi Rong messily had wiped away. It spun madly like it was crazy with rage. HuaLian and HuaChang also leapt down, and HuaLian picked up the Daruma doll anew. Guoshi shook his head. Prince Zhao Jing truly is. 100 years like a day. His taste is incredibly bad, and I can't believe he hasn't improved at all. HuaChang took a glance at the wall and was too lazy to even show a disdainful expression. He only gave a one-word comment, hideous. The Guoshi finally agreed with him and he tucked his hands in his sleeves. Extremely hideous. After so many years, other than that hellish mess of set of verses on the doors of the gambler's den in the Ghost City, that writing was over 10 times more hideous than this. I've never seen anything more hideous. HuaLian, on the other hand, was desperately trying to laugh it off. Master. I've also seen that set of verses that you speak of, and I thought it was pretty well written. It's very full of style. I rather like it. The Guoshi was puzzled. Your Highness, how can you say something like that? Your calligraphy was taught by world-class masters. How can you not tell the difference between beautiful and hideous? That writing is totally the worst of the 3 realms. Not even the best teachers could salvage it. What exactly do you like about it? Did your taste fall apart? Master, please don't say any more! Suddenly, HuaChang said, Gege, Jun Wu is making a move. He's probably going to look for you. He's heading to the Palace of Shanla right now. The Guoshi jolted, well, what? Then, Your Highness, you have to hurry back. Crimson Rain Salt Flower. You have to hide yourself well, too. Absolutely do not let him discover that you two have gotten together. My 3 friends, the mountain spirits' bodies, are currently bound within the borders of Mount Tonglu and are trying to break free. No matter what actions we take, there's more sure of a chance after they've broken free. Remember, do not act recklessly. Naturally, HuaLian knew this. Having bid Guoshi farewell, the 2 left the Palace of Ling Wen swiftly and stealthily flying through, evading countless guards and demons. There were 4 more blocks before they reached the Palace of Shanla, when just then HuaChang spoke up again. Gege, there's 1 more block before he reaches the Palace of Shanla. HuaLian, he touched that monitoring silver butterfly, and before his eyes there flashed a scene. Sure enough, with one hand behind his back and walking by his lonesome, it was merely 100 steps before Jun Wu reached the gates of the Palace of Shanla. What should they do? Wouldn't this mean that they would get there after Jun Wu or bump right into him? It must be known that the guards at the gates of the Palace of Shanla were still petrified by HuaChang. Suddenly, the gates of the Divine Palace behind Jun Wu opened. Someone stood behind those doors and spoke, My lord. Jun Wu paused in his step and looked back to Rainmaster. What is it? The one who stopped him was indeed the Rainmaster. It was probably because Jun Wu had given instructions that irrelevant figures must not come close to the residence of the Rainmaster, so that other than the guards, there weren't any demons or monsters visible. She said very politely, My lord, I have something I've forgotten to give you. Might I ask my lord to stop in for a moment? Jun Wu inclined his head very well. Good on you, Yushi! And sure enough, he turned back, HuaLian sighed a breath of relief. Oh, thank God for Lord Rainmaster. He decided after he returned, he'd burn 18 tall incense sticks for the Rainmaster. Using this chance, the 2 dashed across the 4 blocks and returned to the Palace of Shanla before Jun Wu. As they crossed through the doors, HuaChang casually waved his hand and released the spell on the guards at the gate. They were confounded for a moment, but completely did not notice anything amiss. HuaLian sprinted back to the inner chambers, but before he had a chance to sigh in relief, his face changed again, since the guards at the gates had come to announce Jun Wu's arrival. Jun Wu had come so fast! It seemed that the Rainmaster hadn't stopped him for long. The two exchanged looks, communicating without word, and Hua Chong turned to hide himself behind the curtains. While HuaLian hopped onto the bed, pretending to be asleep, his back facing outwards. Oh my god! Just as he pulled up the cover, Jun Wu entered. He slowly came to the table side and was quiet for a moment before he spoke. Shanla, are you resting? HuaLian didn't respond. Jun Wu seemed to have sat down at the table and placed something that was in his hands on the table's surface. Then he poured himself a cup of tea. He said gently, Shanla, I made you stay here for your own good. There are many things that, as long as you listen to me, the end result will be much better. HuaLian didn't flip over and was still facing with his back. Otherwise, having remembered all that Guoshi had told him, with his heart like the raging seas, he wouldn't know what expression he'd use to face Jun Wu, who at this moment was still kind and gentle. The next moment behind him, Jun Wu said languidly, but not only did you sneak out to play, you even brought someone back to hide in your chambers. It seems you really don't listen to me anymore. Oh, shit! No! Oh, crap! Well, that's not good. No. Meet the Ghost King, hiding in the palace of the Crown Prince, too. Having heard him say so, a chill instantly ran down HuaLian's back and his hair raised. It was as if he could feel what it was like the night the Guoshi had snuck into Jun Wu's room and removed the mask. He heard Jun Wu rise to his feet from the table side, coming this way slowly. Hua Chong was standing behind the curtains right next to the bed. When HuaLian got onto the bed, he had hidden Fang Shen underneath the pillow, like Jun Wu had with his sword. At this moment, the hand on the hilt clenched it tight, waiting for the right moment, but at the same time, doubtful if there would really be the right and opportune moment. Yet unexpectedly, Jun Wu did not go to the curtains, but came to the bedside and lifted the cover on his body directly. HuaLian felt his body go chill and shot up, glaring at him. But Jun Wu only eyed him calculatingly. He said quietly, that robe doesn't suit you. Only then did HuaLian remember he was still wearing the brocade immortal. Although the brocade immortal had now turned into white cultivation robe, of course Jun Wu wouldn't have missed it. He watched HuaLian calculatingly for a moment and then sighed. You just wouldn't listen to me, and you went out to cause trouble again, didn't you? HuaLian watched him anxiously when suddenly his eyes swept onto the table, and upon it there was a gift box. The gift box was already unwrapped, and inside there were a few cabbages, several potatoes, and some carrots. So it turns out that when the Rainmaster stopped Jun Wu just now, she said she forgot to give him something. It was souvenirs from Yushi country. Behind Jun Wu, Hua Chong soundlessly used a hand and raised a corner of the curtain, revealing his face behind. He met his eyes with HuaLian's through where Jun Wu stood between them. His hand slowly rested on the silver scimitar that hung on his waist, seeming to be deliberating whether to make a move immediately. HuaLian didn't think it was the right moment, and while pretending not to talk to Jun Wu, he shook his head. Where did you hide Ling Wen? Jun Wu asked. Of course he couldn't give him Ling Wen. The moment he saw Ling Wen, there wouldn't be any need to ask her what was going on. Just take a look at her Daruma form, and one could guess Hua Chong must have snuck into the heavenly capital. But HuaLian couldn't help but wonder, had Jun Wu really not suspected Hua Chong had already snuck in at all? Just then Jun Wu spoke again. Shanla, your expression seems to say wrong. What's wrong? Could it be other than the brocade immortal? You've hidden someone else? HuaLian's expression just now didn't change at all. Jun Wu really knew him too well. Silently exchanging a look with Hua Chong behind Jun Wu, HuaLian steadied himself and said coldly, think whatever you want. Either way, no one can leave right now, so there's nothing I can do. Do what pleases you, you old fart. Then he laid down again, pulling the covers over his head. As for Jun Wu, he turned around and started pacing leisurely within the chamber, searching. Taking his time and searching for a while, nothing was found, and Jun Wu then pondered for a moment, and sure enough, he stilled towards those curtains and reached out. When the curtain was lifted, there was nothing. Pausing for a moment, Jun Wu dropped the curtain and returned to the table anew. As for HuaLian, who was lying in bed, his lurched heart still hadn't relaxed. Under the covers, Hua Chong was lying right next to him, their faces pressed extremely close. HuaLian's heart was thumping very hard, his entire person tense and taut. Huachong smiled and mouthed soundlessly, "Don't be afraid, Your Highness." Just now, the moment Jun Wu turned around, Huachong easily dropped the curtains. Then after Jun Wu had walked past him, he easily slipped out from behind the curtains and soundlessly blitzed to HuaLian's bedside. HuaLian yanked him onto the bed and stuffed him inside, and as Huachong had rolled in, Jun Wu had turned around again. The timing was seamless. Plus the positioning was intricate so that other than a bunch of messy blankets, Jun Wu saw nothing. Finally, Jun Wu said, "Shanla, stop sleeping. You can't sleep anyway. Get up and come with me." HuaLian actually really wanted to slack off in bed and not get up, but he was afraid that Jun Wu would come over again and lift the covers. So he could only shuffle out of bed and hide the blue Daruma doll inside his sleeve by the pillow side. Jun Wu had already left the bedchamber, and HuaLian looked back. Huachong had already gotten out of bed, his eyes dark, ready to come over. HuaLian hurriedly waved, gesturing for him to absolutely not be exposed and that everything was fine. Jun Wu, who had already exited, called out, "What's wrong? Why aren't you coming? Is there something in bed that's keeping you behind?" HuaLian instantly returned to the chamber, grabbed the box of souvenirs on the table and went back out, closing the door behind him. He picked up a carrot inside the box and took a chomp. "It's nothing. Can't I be hungry?" Jun Wu glanced at the thing in his hand and said warmly, "If you like this, I've got more. I'll send them to you another time." HuaLian, oof. They walked a few blocks, and from afar they could hear a voice that was making a ruckus. "Oh, Feng Xin, you dog! This demon king is trampling your palace right now. What are you going to do about it? What? Come fight me!" Ha 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 ha! It was Qi Rong again. As they approached, they could all see that all around the Golden Palace was under his attack. The giant and ugly Qi Rong was here! All over the place! Qi Rong had even hopped into the roofs to uncover the shingles, hollering and screaming at the heavenly officials inside. Guoshi was by his side, looking greatly aggrieved, wanting to speak but stopping himself. He was currently jumping and stomping on the palace of Nanyang, but Feng Xin was troubled, so he ignored him completely. Qi Rong yelled for a while but got bored, so he went to Mu Qing's palace and screamed the exact same thing. Mu Qing seemed to have rolled his eyes a few times at his antics, and Qi Rong stomped his feet in anger, hopping all over the place, and then hopped on top of Chan Yizhen's palace. Yet before he even opened his mouth, the divine statue with a head full of curly hair suddenly blasted out of the room and came flying, smashing him off the roof with his head crashing first. It was the enraged Chan Yizhen who had used his own divine statue as a weapon and flung it directly at him. Guoshi was stupefied. He clung onto the edge of the roof and cried, "Dad, are you all right?" Qi Rong was furious. "Chan Yizhen, you shameless idiot! You dare use underhanded ambush against me?" Guoshi hesitated for a moment, then asked confusedly, "Well, Dad, how was that underhanded? Didn't Chan Yizhen openly throw the divine statue over?" Qi Rong yelled, "You stupid son! As long as he wins against me, no matter how he does it, it's all underhanded. Otherwise, how could he possibly win against this ancestor?" "Oh," Guoshi replied. Qi Rong was his little cousin no matter what, so HuaLian couldn't help but cover his face. Jun Wu paused in his step. Green ghost. When Qi Rong heard his voice, his face stiffened. He crawled up, looking over cautiously, seeming to be very wary of Jun Wu. With this gaze, both father and son naturally saw HuaLian. Guoshi exclaimed happily, "Oh, scrap cultivator, Gege!" Qi Rong, on the other hand, snorted derisively, "Oh my, who's this? Ain't this cousin crown prince?" HuaLian didn't want to acknowledge him in the slightest, but he still came over to harass him, going around HuaLian in circles, taunting, "Weren't you very high-spirited before, with 2 mountains behind your back, looking down on me? Why do you look like a lost dog now?" HuaLian was puzzled. 2 mountains behind his back? Then he realized that one was Huachong and the other was Jun Wu. He glanced at Jun Wu, who was standing in front of him, and couldn't help but feel all sorts of things. Suddenly he remembered a long time ago. He asked Huachong what Jun Wu was like. At the time, Huachong's response was, "Jun Wu must really hate him." Qi Rong continued, "Oh, before you used Huachong, that fucker as backing and ambushed me. I haven't even sought vengeance against you, and someone else got to you first. Truly, what good karma." Jun Wu spoke quietly. "Green ghost, stop talking nonsense to Shanla. You can let your subordinates out now." Although Qi Rong cursed Jun Wu madly behind his back in the past, when he really came before Jun Wu, he glumly tucked in his tail. even while his expression showed how unwilling he was. Without another word, he hopped onto the roof, picked up Guoshi, and ran off to do his errands. Jun Wu turned to Shanla. Let's go. Shanla looked at the path Jun Wu was taking down and pondered inwardly. This direction, it's headed to Qi Rong's subordinates? Could it be? After a while, they turned a corner, and sure enough, a sumptuous martial palace appeared before the two, the palace of Ming Guang. Oh no! And at the palace, there was already angry roars and incoherent shouting coming from inside. HuaLian was alarmed and stopped caring to follow behind Jun Wu, running ahead to go inside. It certainly was a mess inside the palace. Pei Ming's face was steely dark, and Shanji was like a viper, clinging him into a chokehold, wrapping around and around, just short of tying a knot. Her long hair spread, her face green, her teeth red, her eyes savage and glaring. It looked as if she wanted to bite through Pei Ming's neck, but she herself had her neck choked and pulled away by Banyu. Oh! On the other side, a broken sword was pointed at Pei Ming's neck like it was about to pierce through, but was firmly held down by Pei Su, his hand so that the blade wouldn't move forward. Behind Banyu and Pei Su, Kamo was swinging his fists about to punch. It was as if the ashen-faced Pei Ming who had dragged him down, Kamo's two giant fists bigger than iron hammers, would probably have already squashed Pei Su and Banyu flat. Shanji and Rong Guang were arguing over who would get to choke or stab Pei Ming dead first, and they were screaming and ripping at each other. Shanji shrieked, "Get lost! Pei Ming's shit life is mine! Mine! It's all mine!" Rong Guang, who was possessing the Ming Guang sword, yelled back, "Oh, get lost! What, you ignorant, what an ignorant wench! There's at least 800, if not 1,000 women Pei Ming doesn't want. You think you rank high? The one who will take Pei Ming's shit life is mine." Veins popped violently on Pei Ming's forehead. "You're both mental! Get lost, both of you!" HuaLian felt endless sympathy. In some sense, this was probably considered the misfortune of overpopularity. He called out, "General Pei, hang on!" He was just about to go rescue him when unexpectedly, before he even moved, a hand rested on his shoulder. Behind him, Jun Wu spoke, "Shanla, did you actually think I've called you here just so you can help do good deeds?" In the midst of getting bruised and battered, Pei Ming and company noticed him, and Banyu called out joyously, "Oh, General Hua!" With that hand pressed down, HuaLian suddenly couldn't move a muscle. "Then why did you bring me here?" Jun Wu maintained the position of his hand on his shoulder and pushed him into the palace. The moment he entered, the mob that was entangled together in a bunch fell to the ground in an instant, as if their strength was sucked away. Only a couple could still flop around. "Ming Guang," Jun Wu said. Shanji wasn't strangling him anymore, and Pei Ming's face finally recovered. He sighed a breath of relief and replied, "My lord, really, thank you for this." While his tone wasn't sarcastic, the words themselves were rather ironic. Jun Wu didn't seem to mind and smiled. "Oh, there's no need to thank me so early, Ming Guang. I've come to have you help me do something." "What?" Pei Ming asked. "In the royal capital down in the lower realms, there's currently a human array." "He knew it!" Jun Wu said quietly, "Break the human array, and I'll return your status of martial god of the north." Pei Ming glanced at HuaLian and chuckled dryly. "Wasn't that the Crimson Rain Sop flower who's guarding that array? I might not be able to break it forcefully." "Of course you cannot break it forcefully," Jun Wu said, "but I didn't say you had to break it forcefully. If it was Pei Ming, it would actually be very easy to break this array. As long as he pretended to go help, Shi Qingshang would let him in for sure. And once he entered the array, then unexpectedly broke away, the array would be ruined. Besides, Huachang wasn't even guarding the royal capital right now, so he wouldn't be able to fix it at all." "Oh, well, son of a bitch, why are we stopping now? Oh, my God, no! No! And he doesn't even know that, no, but it is, why? So that's what this is all about. It's just, the rest of this book is just going to be HuaLian helping Huachang's calligraphy get better so that the Guoshi will leave him alone. I wanted Qi Rong, I get Qi Rong. I wanted Pei Ming being chokeholded by Shanji, I get Pei Ming being chokeholded by Shanji. I don't know what else I wanted, but I got it in these chapters. Oh my God, but you know what I didn't get? You know what I didn't get? This stupid puppet question answered. It was right there in front of us. And Huachang's like, well, don't worry some big ol' answer, isn't there? There'd better be some life-altering, plot twist-changing answer as to who sent the damn puppet, because at this point, MXTX is just teasing us. MXTX did not have to go out of their way to tell us that the puppet question is there, but we're not going to answer it right now. That was a damn tease. That was MXTX going, I could tell you the answer to that question, but I'm not going to. And I'm like, why not? Just go ahead and say it if it's not that important. Ah! So yes. So much happened in this chapter set. Qi Rong's here causing a muck. Oh my god, with the graffiti. Oh, we're gonna talk about it. With poor Goozy. Goozy being the mature one, being like, Daddy, don't. And then Jun Wu being freaking terrifying and creepy as hell. And then just the Guoshi being such a parental figure to HuaLian, being like, look, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, HuaLian, but he's a ghost king. I can't, okay? So anything get answered on this? The ring, that stupid Banyu puppet question is going to haunt us the rest of the book set. We did learn a little bit about the third ascension. We're going to talk a little bit about that. The fetus spirit origin, no. We do know that the brocade immortal, Jun Wu took that away from HuaLian, I'm pretty sure, so that one's not important anymore. Although we'll have to go back to Ling Wen at some point and address them with the brocade immortal, maybe. Yin Yu's fate, don't know. Sean Yushin chucked a statue at Qi Rong, so that was fun. Pei Ming and Shang-Chi, we're about to find out that. That's about to get resolved, maybe. Thundermaster, calling it now. Deus Ex Machina, gonna come in at the last minute. Mu Qing, got them briefly. Lan Chu getting brought up. Has Sean getting brought up. What's so interesting about this is that the Guoshi knows so much, and they've been around for so long, and yet there were some things they have no clue about. And I'm like, how? I'm so glad some stuff got brought up in this. The star, the ominous star, and the star of solitude. How about that? Born under the ominous star, and then the star of solitude. So, let's talk about this. So, Huachong with the star of solitude. That part, I have been wondering for a very long time, specifically the last week. But I've been wondering, like, is there a connection with the Prince of Wuyang and Huachong? Because back during Mount Tonglu, I was like, is there a connection? It seems kind of like maybe there could be. Not with that, but with the kiln, yeah. It's kind of insane. The idea that the kiln gathered up with the Star of Solitude all of this negative energy, and it basically attached itself. It attached itself to Huachong. So honestly, the crazy thing is that you have Huachong and HuaLian, who are both born under these stars, right? You have the Star of Solitude and the Ominous Star. And they're both born under these stars that point to them being destined either for fortune or misfortune, for better or worse, but they're kind of destined, and they end up becoming together and helping one another, right? That's the kind of crazy thing, is that they both overcame their circumstances and aided one another when it was least expected, and they kind of became each other's saviors. And that's so powerful, right? And I love that. I love that Huachong's not bothered anymore by it. Like, the connection Huachong has to the kiln and Jun Wu doesn't even matter. He's got HuaLian. It's like, I don't need any of that. Don't care about it at all. Although, I thought that for a long time, the Guoshi knew that Huachong was the kid that HuaLian saved, was the Star of Solitude, and was all these things. He was just kind of like mocking him or just dryly like referring to him. But no, he had no idea. And so finally, Huachong couldn't take it anymore. He's like, yeah, that's me. I've been here all along. I'm here till Thursday. Let's get through this, right? Insane. And the Guoshi was really like, not realizing it was Huachong, was like, well, it's probably better that his parents died and all this happened and he wouldn't live to be 18 anyway. That part was probably the saddest for me out of that whole spiel. Not necessarily his parents dying, because it's kind of hinted at that he had an abused past, but the idea that because he was born under the Star of Solitude, he wasn't going to make it past 18. And HuaLian just kind of being like, damn, he he didn't live past 18. He died on the battlefield and then became the little ghost fire and then connected to me. But he'd always wanted to connect to HuaLian. So it's crazy, right? It's so insane how fate worked out. It's really like HuaLian and HuaChang were destined to be together. And I kind of love it. It's very romantic, but I like that HuaLian is also very aware during this entire chapter set that he's like aware of HuaChang's feelings and all of this. We've always debated for a large part of the novel series that HuaChang has been very like concerned, sincere, and caring for HuaLian's well-being. And here we kind of see it reversed. Just like in the last chapter set, I don't remember if I talked about it, but you know, HuaChang getting the full blunt of HuaLian's blow when he's wearing the brocade immortal, and then HuaChang being like, you have some bad habits, and some of your bad habits is that you're very self-sacrificing and that you don't think much of yourself and you're very easy to self-harm. That's not good. So I'm showing you what that's like. It's not fun, is it? It's not fun to watch someone you care about get hurt, is it? And HuaLian's like, no. And so here, HuaLian kind of does some self-reflecting and he's like, oh, well, has HuaChang always been like this? And it's great to see HuaLian kind of reflecting and seeing the stuff in HuaChang that we've seen HuaChang see in HuaLian this entire time. It's great. So we find out that this entire time, Jun Wu's been setting up riddles and puzzles and tests for HuaLian to see if he would pass the tests and be worthy to be his apprentice. He was doing all the Darth Sidious things, seeing if HuaLian would be worthy to be his right-hand man. And every time, HuaLian has failed the test, at least failed in Jun Wu's eyes. So we have the 3 tests. We had the first test, which was the human face disease in Shanla, and Bai Wusheng gave the test of, well, here's how you stop it, and HuaLian did not want to distribute it, so that didn't work. And so then they're like, well, you didn't give him the satisfactory answer after you're banished, and so the moment you ascended, you immediately were beaten back down. And HuaLian's like, well, during that second ascension, I kind of asked to go back down. And HuaChang's like, even if you didn't ask, he would have found a way to send you back down at some point. And HuaLian's like, but Jun Wu defeated the White No-Face. And HuaChang's like, but he didn't kill him. He didn't die. He kept going. So, and HuaLian's like, well, then what was the point? Why go through all the trouble? And Guoshi says, look, Bai Wusheng could kill you, but what he wanted wasn't to kill you. It's that he really likes you. He wanted to turn you into something that he wanted you to become. So the idea behind this has been that Bai Wusheng, he likes HuaLian, and he wants HuaLian to be someone that relates and is loyal to Jun Wu and the Prince of Wuyang. That's essentially what it comes down to. And I do like that throughout these chapters and last week's chapters, HuaLian kind of talks about how he has these really complicated feelings because he's like, this whole time I've really respected Jun Wu and I've really liked him, like not romantically, but liked him as a person and respected him. And now to find out that it's not that he was insincere, Jun Wu has liked HuaLian, but to find out that the reasons behind it are a lot more nefarious than he thought and a lot more complicated, he doesn't really know how to feel about it. He's like, I don't know how to take this. This is weird to me. So it adds a really big layer there of complexity, right? And so he's like, killing you won't achieve that end. He's like, if you died, you won't ever change, and he can't accept that. So White No-Face had no reason to let you go. So he's like, well, it makes sense that Bai Wusheng is acting independently of Jun Wu because it's a creature that is independent technically of Jun Wu, is born from Jun Wu and the Prince of Wuyang, but it's not a carbon copy, right? It has its own consciousness, kind of like the Reverend of Empty Words. So it makes sense why it would attack HuaLian, but it's still, what's funny is that Bai Wusheng kind of has this like echo of Jun Wu's feelings towards HuaLian. So of course they're warped and distorted into different ways, which is fascinating to me. And so it's like he failed twice and you extremely vexed him. The second time you were banished and drifted, and he had countless of opportunities to educate you and wait till you changed your mind. And so he calmed down, but then your third ascension is what got him back to being all riled up. So again, we don't know about this third ascension. So for 500 years, Bai Wuxian calmed down, realized that maybe HuaLian would change his mind, come back to him, but the third ascension is what got him. What I love about it is that it points to the fact that Jun Wu cannot understand how HuaLian, he doesn't change for the worse and still ascends. Because that's not what happened with Jun Wu. There is a big difference there. Jun Wu did not, for all we know, ascend again like HuaLian. It's like HuaLian went through everything. Like he went through 500 years in the mud, but still came out being exactly like he was. He was unchanged. And he felt that he would set out more riddles to test you. And then HuaChang's like, Gege, think back. What has happened since you ascended for the third time? All these tests started all over again once you ascended. They weren't happening before. They all started happening again. Like the whole thing with the ghost bride. It's like that caused him. And it makes a lot of sense, right? The tests were not only to see if HuaLian would be someone that could stand by Jun Wu's side, but the alternative was, well, if they don't work, then at least they're going to serve as a way to depower the heavenly officials in charge. So Pei Ming was first on the chopping block. Season 1 was basically trying to whittle down Pei Ming to do the whole bride thing, the stuff at Banyu. It was all to get at Pei Ming and his spiritual power, right? And then of course, yeah, they have to say here, let's skip on who sent the shell first. And I was like, oh my God, why? Why do we skip that question? Hate it. I'm like, you might as well not have mentioned it, MXTX. I wouldn't have been so mad if you at least ignored it and just acted like it wasn't important. The fact that MXTX has said, let's skip who sent the puppet, means that it's something important. And I'm mad about it because we're going to have to wait. How dare you, MXTX? How dare you? How dare. So yeah, in any case, Pei Jr. gets kicked out, and thus one of General Pei's arms was snapped. So they're like, well, even if you failed the test, it still weakened a heavenly official that could possibly stand up to Jun Wu. And like the Guoshi says, the Guoshi's like, if y'all hadn't have figured all this out and came to these conclusions, you could have been, the Guoshi's like, if I didn't act and say something and use Hongjing up there earlier, then we could have all been dead, and Jun Wu could have started a whole new heavenly realm, and we would have been trampled underfoot and part of the foundation like the last of them were. So Guoshi's like, thank you. You're welcome. Is basically what the Guoshi was doing. And so HuaChang's like, in these 800 years, he didn't slack on watching you. He knew that you were once a Guoshi Mei NianQing and taught Lan Chuan, and yet he still sent him on the mission with you. It was done out of malintent. So yeah, that all makes sense now too. Jun Wu knew that HuaLian had taught Lan Chuan, so he sent Lan Chuan with him and the Wind Master to start a riot and start a ruckus and get him all worked up, knowing that Lan Chuan would figure it out, and that would lead to a test. But HuaLian failed the test for that too. And then him putting in with Shi Wudu and the Wind Master, that part is probably the most sinister, is the fact that, yeah, Jun Wu has known about the Reverend Empty Words, known about Shi Wudu for a long time, but it just so coincidentally didn't all come into fruition and didn't come into Heshan messing with all this until HuaLian got involved. Which, that makes me so mad, because it's like HuaLian formed this friendship with the Wind Master, and then Jun Wu chose to strike. He could have gotten rid of Shi Wudu a long time ago, but he didn't do it. And it was directly messing with not only HuaLian, but HuaLian's friends, ruining the Wind Master's life and getting Heshan involved and killing Shi Wudu, which messed up, the Wind Master even more. That part's messed up. Really messed up. But also, the Guoshi doesn't know. The Guoshi did not know that HuaLian was Fang Xin. And he's like, oh, well, I'm sure. Oh, my stuff's got to fall. My dog runs into that. He's like, no wonder Jun Wu was really mad at you. He was furious with you if he knew about this. Yeah, that he was the Guoshi. And because, again, the idea that HuaLian not only did HuaLian not get the job done and not get rid of Yongin and interfere to basically end up saving Yongin and trying to help out the situation with Lan Chenchu, it's not only that, but it's the fact that HuaLian was imitating the Guoshi. HuaLian, being the Guoshi of Yongin with Lan Chenchu, was imitating Mei NianQing. And what would make Jun Wu really upset? HuaLian not imitating Jun Wu, but HuaLian imitating Mei NianQing. Who Jun would be like, excuse me, why are you imitating him? Why not me? That makes a lot of sense of why the Guoshi was like, yeah, he probably didn't like that. Not at all. How about that? And so then it's like every step he took was under close watch and the push of Jun Wu. Jun Wu pushing them to Mount Tonglu. Like, all of this makes sense, that it was all like slowly orchestrated by Jun Wu over the course of this entire story. It's insanity, right? And so Huachong's like, well, yes, he's doing this on one hand because he's just weird and has this perverted mentality, but he keeps throwing riddles at you thinking that you're going to go down the road that he paved for you. But he's also trying to cut down on the heavenly officials. So, yeah. And Huachong's like, yeah, if Shi Wudu changed the Windmaster's fate and the Blackwater had infiltrated to investigate, he clearly knew something about it. Like, Jun Wu's known about this entire time. Which is really sad because it's like messing with HuaLian's friends and everything. And so Huachong's like, as for him gathering these ghosts again to birth a new supreme, it was to create balance. He was delighted to see a malicious supreme born because it would cause havoc. And as long as there's havoc, creatures causing havoc, it means people are praying to him and giving him more power. Right? And the thing about it is, for Heshan and Huachong are kind of like failures in that regard to Jun Wu, because Jun Wu, allowed Heshan to be created, thinking he was going to cause havoc, when in reality, Heshan really just wanted revenge on Shi Wudu. That's all he cared about. Otherwise, he's like, I don't care, because back during the Blackwater arc, we find out that Jun Wu caused the whole stuff with the fishermen. It wasn't Heshan or Huachong. So it's like, oh, crap. So yeah, Heshan was kind of a bummer for Jun Wu because he didn't really cause a lot of havoc. He was just like, I just want to get revenge on this one guy who killed my family and then peace out. So thanks for the supreme ghost powers. And then Huachong, even though he's so feared, he doesn't really cause a lot of chaos. He creates the ghost city and then he's revered by people, weirdly enough. So that's not doing what Jun Wu wants. So it's like he wanted to create that new supreme ghost this time around and just create more chaos and get more power. And the Guoshi says every time the kiln opens its gates, us four would go to stop it. But we were successful every time. This time it's even more. Things have gotten more out of hand. And so basically, I guess the Guoshi were like, we've stopped him every other time since then, except this time around it's been different. And so he's like, I wanted to go find you, but after Mount Tonglu was taken care of, he captured me first. And so I like the explanation that the Guoshi says that the reason why they were able to see his face through Hongjing is because he'd wasted all this energy fighting the mountain spirits. That normally the faces wouldn't have shown up. He could have hit it with his spiritual powers, but a lot of that was depleted by battling the mountain spirits. And so it allowed that brief moment to happen. And so, of course, he asks, well, did that cover everything? And HuaLian, doesn't ask who the puppet was. It asked him to go to Banyu. I don't want to know. I know I'm going to find out by the end of this story, but I'm like, damn it, XTX, that's going to be a sore spot all week. Gonna be a sore spot all week. In any case, so they ask about the Wuyong tongue. And I thought this part was interesting, too. It wasn't because of the Guoshi or the mountain spirits that HuaLian could hear the tongue, because they have long since gave up the speech of Wuyong. They don't want to go back to it. They're like, it brings back bad memories. They don't want to remember something from 2,000 years ago. All of it is tying back to Bai Wusheng and Jun Wu. He always wanted me to believe that I was the crown prince and that I was part of his soul. And the Goshi's like, yeah, he wants you to believe that because he doesn't want to be alone. There is a part of me that feels bad for Jun Wu because he's all by himself. All by myself. That's just Jun Wu in the heavenly realm right now, just humming that as he walks through the streets. But it's like, it's sad because I kind of feel bad for Jun Wu that he's all by himself and he just wants somebody, he wants a HuaChong of his own, and he's trying to make HuaLian into his own HuaChong, essentially. But he's also kind of like messed up and warped that sense of love and what that means. And it's just crazy, right? But and then the part about the Cave of 10,000 Gods, which HuaLian is very glad that the Guoshi did not see. We find out the reason why Bai Wuxian could make the skins of Feng Xin and Mu Qing so well is because Jun Wu knew this so well. So that all makes sense now. But yeah, he just wanted HuaLian to believe that he was part of Jun Wu so that it would make them closer, which is kind of sad. It's just really sad. But HuaChong says, like I said, you're not alike at all. Because the Guoshi's like, you guys were very similar but walked different paths. And HuaChong's like, it's because they walk different paths that they're not similar. I like that HuaChong wants HuaLian to have nothing to do with Jun Wu because he's like, no, you're your own person. You're not related to them at all. And I think that also, HuaChong is so focused and fixated on HuaLian understanding that just because he's similar and from a similar background to the Prince of Wuyong, that he's not him. Because HuaChong is filled with all of this resentful spiritual energy that essentially was part of Jun Wu. So it's like HuaChong is like, you are as much like Jun Wu as I am, which is kind of something similar, but not really. So I like that. And then the Guoshi's like, I say, young man, what's wrong with you? I love that he becomes such a dad. Our little Guoshi Meow Meow becomes such a dad, and he's like, well, I know you're a supreme ghost and you're very powerful, but I'm your elder. He's like, talk with me with some respect. And HuaChong's like, really? And HuaLian's like, oh, no, it's just Sun Long. And then I love that the Guoshi takes HuaLian aside and he's like, I saw it on top of the divine statue. This part was amazing because the Guoshi's like, he's like, I know I saw you kiss him. It's fine, but like, you know, what led this on? Like, you know, have you been cultivating so long? You've not been around women that you just decided that it was time to switch to men? And HuaLian's like, no, it's not like that. Which I'm taking it to be HuaLian's like, I was never interested in women to begin with, but it's not really like that. And then the Guoshi's like, well, is it a trait from birth? Well, I never noticed, but this part of you is definitely not like Jun Wu. So suggesting that Jun Wu is not like that. But also, I kind of love the Guoshi's like, oh, well, so you mean you've always liked guys? Okay, that's fine. That's okay. And HuaLian's like, I am so embarrassed. That's not it either. What are we doing? And then the Guoshi says, don't be afraid, Your Highness. I'm not going to lecture you. He's like, I won't guide you on something that I'm not an expert in. Besides, you've already come through so much. What's there left to worry about? Men or women, it doesn't matter as long as you're happy. So the Guoshi, #progressive, is just like, you know what? You, as long as you're happy, it doesn't matter. Love is love. You can like a man or a woman. It's okay. And HuaLian being like, I'm very happy. HuaLian saying he's very happy is so cute. Like, he's just like, well, I am very happy with him. But then the Guoshi goes, okay, yes, but after 800 years, I like that in the novel, he says, I love how they phrase it in the novel. And we get our first picture, right? He says here, it's amazing. He's like, what does he say here? He says, oh, well, you know, what's wrong with you? And he says, Your Highness, was it because I was so strict or because you've cultivated too long and avoided women? And he's like, well, this part of you certainly isn't like him. And he says here, but after being single for 800 years, how'd you end up with the Supreme Ghost King? He's like, you've been single and a virgin for 800 years and the first guy you date is this guy? Like the Ghost King? And he's saying, it's not that you've got bad taste. It's not bad. I'm sure mature young ladies and maidens are fond of that type too, but a Supreme Ghost King is trouble. He's like, your first boyfriend had to be a bad boy? I'm telling you, Your Highness, you've got to think these things through. Once somebody that clings on to you, you can forget ever ditching them. Like, he's like, this guy's going to be a stage 5 clinger. And we're like, oh, it's been past stage 5 for a long time, but in the best way. But I just love the picture we get is the Guoshi, like, lecturing HuaLian. He's, like, lecturing him. And HuaChong, look how happy HuaChong is. Look at that. Look at that smile. He's so happy. HuaChong is like, well, you know, it's it's fine. Why are you doing this? And then he reveals that he was the Star of Solitude. And the Guoshi not knowing, I'm like, what? Come on now. He's like, you were that child. And he's like, HuaLian, this guy has been, and again, the Guoshi kind of goes into Muqing and Fengshen mode from back on Mount Tonglu, where he's like, he's been following you for 800 years. Are you not bothered by this? And HuaLian's like, no, it's fine. I trust him. He wouldn't do anything horrible like that. He wouldn't deceive me. And then I like HuaLian's also like, you haven't seen the cave that he made for me. And then Huachong's like, I would deceive anyone but His Highness. Which is true, right? Which is very true. And so I love it. I love the Guoshi is just like, and I love that the Guoshi is like, well, you think you're very cunning, young man, but just let me tell you, he's like, HuaLian is very innocent. Did you tell him how spiritual powers relent, or did you trick him into kissing you? Like, he just instantly becomes like dad mode on Huachong, and Huachong's like, are we going here? Are we doing this? And HuaLian's like, oh my God, about to die from secondhand embarrassment. It's amazing. I absolutely love this. 2 pieces. But then, of course, it's like damn Christmas. Christmas came early, y'all. It's not happened yet in the Donghua, but I'm so freaking ready. It's just like Qi Rong showed up with a damn Christmas sack going, ho, 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 bitches, and shows up in the heavenly realm. What? I love it. He's just been set loose. Oh my God. And poor Goozy. Poor Goozy is like, Dad, why are you spitting on stuff? That's not nice. And the thing about it is, he cleaned up the spit. He tried to wipe it away. He's like, stupid son. The part that got me with Qi Rong, was that he goes to the palace of Ling Wen and graffitis all over the wall. And in the English translation, it says, Green Ghost Qi Rong, #1 ghost king of the 3 realms, was here. I just imagine it looks like a 90s tag, and they're like big, like Junko bubble letters, and there's like was is spelled W-U-Z or something like that. Like it looks like really tacky, like 1990s graffiti. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like just Qi Rong is loose in the heavenly realm, ripping roofs off, tearing everything asunder. Most people are ignoring him. So freaking good. I've missed Qi Rong. I've missed him. And he just shows up here to cause a muck. Now, in front of Jun Wu, he gets like very timid. And is like, no, I can't really do much to you. So Qi Rong at least is smart enough to realize that he isn't going to do jack squat to Jun Wu. But him like talking about HuaLian brings up Huachong, all this. And Jun Wu kind of is just like, can we not talk about Huachong with HuaLian? I was waiting for Qi Rong to talk about them like making out and stuff, and Jun Wu being like, I don't want to hear about it. Like, you know, because Jun Wu's kind of jealous of them, I'm pretty sure. Insanity. And the Guoshi's like, and the Guoshi still calls him by his name. He calls him Prince Zhao Jing. I forgot that was his name. And he's like, oh, Prince Zhao Jing, 100 years is like a day, and his taste is incredibly bad. And I like the Huachong goes hideous. Like, just how bad he is. And then the Guoshi is earning no points with Huachong. He was just like, well, at least it's not as bad as that calligraphy on the gambler's den, am I right? HuaLian's like, we don't want to talk about that. So I'm pretty sure that at some point in this book, HuaLian has to set Huachong down, and Huachong's going to be like, the Guoshi said my calligraphy was really bad, HuaLian. Can you help make it better? And HuaLian will be like, sure, buddy, old pal. I'll help make it better. Don't let those Guoshi words get you down. And then they, like, end up making out on the table. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. But, oh, my God. I love it. And HuaLian just nervous laughing his way through everything. It reminds me a lot of the Windmaster. When the Windmaster would, like, laugh when they were nervous. I feel like HuaLian has adopted that quality from them. It's great. So, using the Rainmaster yet again. I just love the Rainmaster. Like, she helps them out so much by distracting Jun Wu, but her distractions are just like the most obscure random things. I'm sure Jun Wu is just like, what the fudge? Or she's just like, here's a basket of carrots. This is what I want to give HuaLian. And he's like, why the hell would he want this? I love it. But, oh my God, the absolute dread and terror of this scene where Jun Wu comes to the palace. They get back lickety-split in the nick of time. And Jun Wu is like, oh, well, you snuck out to play. You brought someone back to hide in your chamber. You don't listen to me. And you think that he knows about HuaLian, but he doesn't. It's the brocade immortal that HuaLian brought back. And so he's like, oh, crap. And he takes it away. He's like, that robe doesn't suit you. So now the white robe had turned into cultivation robe, and Jun Wu wouldn't have missed it. Okay, so he didn't take it off of HuaLian. He kept the robe on. Okay, so HuaLian still has the robe. I guess I'm going to put it back up here. HuaLian, we still have the brocade immortal that is on HuaLian. Never mind. It's still on him. Jun Wu just called it out and was like, you're still wearing it. But luckily, I thought that HuaLian would leave the Druma doll of Ling Wen with HuaLian, but he doesn't. He takes her with him, which seems like a liability because if Jun Wu finds out that he has the Druma doll, he'll know that HuaLian is there, so that seems like a problem. But no. And so, yeah. But he doesn't know that HuaLian is there. And there is one more image, and it is of HuaLian hiding behind the curtain with Ming, like he's going to stab Jun Wu. And I'm like, that does not seem like it's going to work. I don't know how they're defeating Jun Wu. I don't. Because even though HuaLian is really strong, I don't think he's as strong as Jun Wu right now with all the power that he has. And with Bai Wusheng and everything, I don't think that HuaLian is strong enough to destroy Jun Wu. I don't know how they're getting rid of Jun Wu, but I don't think that he's strong enough to do anything yet. But yeah, so then, oh my god, I love a number of things about this scene. One is HuaLian, like, on his back, under the covers, just being like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, you old fart. Like, HuaLian has gave up the pretense of trying to be respectful towards Jun Wu anymore. He's like, no. He's like, I'm not revering you. You're not the heavenly emperor. You're some creepy guy that's been trying to, like, manipulate my life. So no. He's like Gideon Graves off of Scott Pilgrim, right? He's like, no. And so HuaLian's not having any of it. So I love how nonchalant HuaLian is. It's great. I also love that Jun Wu tries to imitate the scene from when he interrupted HuaLian and HuaLian's bedtime ruse before Mount Tonglu, where he like has the tea and is sitting there. Creepy as hell. But also the idea that HuaLian just gets under the bed with HuaLian staring at him and he's like, don't be afraid, Your Highness. Oh, I want to see an anime where HuaLian and him are under the covers like, you're right here. And HuaLian's like, it's okay. And I just need this. All the moments with HuaLian and HuaLian, I love them so much. But he ends up going with Jun Wu and leaving HuaLian behind. So what we're going to do with that, I don't know. But HuaLian can't leave to go back. So here's our problem. We have the human array down below with the puppet of HuaLian still hanging out and the Windmaster, Shi Qingshang, still there, right? We have that. And the thing about it is that Jun Wu wants to destroy that, which is interesting because you think Jun Wu would be powerful enough, but that's the last one. So we think, right? That's the last one. He wants to destroy it. So his plan is to just send Pei Ming there to just wreck it. And the thing about Pei Ming is that Pei Ming doesn't seem to know that Jun Wu is the problem. He still seems like he's loyal to Jun Wu. And that kind of makes sense because Pei Ming is very pragmatic and practical. And it's like, son of a bitch. But it's like, do you not get that Jun Wu summoned Shanji and all them there? I want Qi Rong to say something about it. And then Pei Ming being like, what? But, no. Also, the moment they went in there with Jun Wu, I was like, Jun Wu, you leave Ban Yu alone. I was like, leave Ban Yu alone. Don't you dare hurt her. She's done nothing. Leave her alone. I'm worried about Ban Yu and all of this. If Yin Yu can die, I'm worried about Ban Yu. But she's already a ghost, so what is he going to do? Just, yeah. And so HuaLian's like, well, can't I be hungry? And there is a creepy moment where HuaLian's eating the carrots that Yushi gave him as they're leaving the Palace of Shanla to head towards Pei Ming's. And Jun Wu is like, well, if you like this, I'll give you more and some other time. And it's meant to be this warm, sentimental moment, but HuaLian's like so freaked out by him at this point that it's like you can't trust anything that he's doing, which is the sad thing, right? Because even if Jun Wu was being sincere, it's so crazy right now that HuaLian's like, I can't trust you. It's weird stuff. So then, yeah, Qi Rong is just causing a havoc. He's wrecking stuff. He's writing Qi Rong was here on everything. He's wrecking Feng Shin's, like, he's wrecking his palace. He gets on to Muqing, and Muqing just rolls his eyes. Which, I am a little bit worried, because Feng Shin not reacting, he's worried about Zhanlan and all that situation, so that makes sense. Muqing just rolling his eyes and not getting mad at Qi Rong, or acknowledging how weird it is that he's there. I don't like where that's headed, because that, to me, makes it seem like Muqing might have made a deal with Jun Wu and knows about Qi Rong and all this. So that part's a little bit disturbing. But then, yeah, then he goes to Chan Yijin, and Chan Yijin just chucks this divine statue of himself at him, which is absolutely hilarious. I love it. And Guzi tries to call him out, that because Qi Rong's like, how underhanded? And Guzi's like, well, how is it underhanded? And Qi Rong's like, well, because he chucked a statue at me, son. Don't you understand? I like that HuaLian's like, the last person who should be like tutoring this little kid is Qi Rong. And Jun Wu calls him just green ghost. Like, it's so creepy. But yeah, Guzi's happy to see HuaLian. And he's like, you had 2 mountains behind your back looking down on me. Why do you look like the lost dog now? And I like that HuaLian figures out the 2 mountains were Huachong and Jun Wu, which is interesting. And so he remembered that a long time ago, Huachong, he asked what Huachong was like. And Huachong's response was that Jun Wu must really hate him. I like that HuaLian's reflecting on this and kind of like piecing all of the former pieces together to see like the full picture of Huachong and Jun Wu and himself and the thoughts that each of them had for one another. It's interesting. But Jun Wu like just leaves Qi Rong to curse and run amok alongside Guzi and to run off and go get his subordinates. His subordinates being Shanji and Ming Guang and all that. Rong Guang, necessarily. And so they go to the palace of Pei Ming. I just love... Can we talk about the image of walking into the palace and there is Pei Ming. Shanji looks like a snake with him in a chokehold. Banyu is holding Shanji back from killing him. Rong Guang is trying to like put a sword to his neck. Pei Su is holding the sword back. Kamo is running around going crazy. It's absolutely insane. And then Shanji and Rong Guang arguing about who gets to take Pei Ming's shit life. And then Jun Wu shows up. He's like, do you think I've called you here so you can help do a good deed? I like that HuaLian goes in to try to save him, and Jun Wu's like, no, that's not what we're doing. Because again, he's like basically trying to torture HuaLian through all of these other heavenly officials. And Shanji is like, thank you for this. Or Pei Ming says thank you for this as soon as Jun Wu gets the 2 of them away, right? Ugh. I want Pei Ming to understand who Jun Wu is, but he doesn't seem to. And he's like, oh, Ming Guang, I need your help doing something. Like, he makes HuaLian sit on the sidelines like he did before when Yushi showed up. And he's like, I need you to go down to the human array. And he's like, I'll return your status of martial god of the north if you break the array. And I like that Pei Ming looks at HuaLian and he's like, oh, well, you know, that's real nice that you want me to go do that, Jun Wu, but the Crimson Rain Stop Flower is guarding that array, so, you know, I can't just go down and break up my homeboy here, his man. I can't go do that. Like, I love Pei Ming kind of looks at HuaLian like there's a bro code. He's like, oh, don't worry, dude. Don't worry, brah. I'm not gonna, like, wreck your friend's array. But it's so crazy how Pei Ming does not seem to realize that Jun Wu is like responsible for Shanji and Rong Guang attacking him and being able to do so. Like, I'm like, Pei Ming, if you not put 2 and 2 together, what? And so then Jun Wu's like, well, you don't have to break it forcefully. You can just go down there and, you know, HuaLian figures out that all Pei Ming has to do is walk through the array, make them think he's helping, and then break it. And because Huachong isn't technically there, he's not going to be able to fix it, and all of that will be ruined. So the problem is that, you know, you have Feng Xin, who has this trial with Zhanlan, and he's figuring things out. Mu Qing, we don't know his thing. Yin Yu had a trial with Chan Yizhen. It's like, what? Pei Ming has nothing to lose by going down and doing this. The only thing he has to lose is if he breaks up the fan club that he's been cultivating this entire story. So, is it going to be bros before hoes? Does that analogy even work here? I'm like, will Pei Ming intentionally go and wreck something involving HuaLian's boyfriend? Or will he be like, bros before hoes, Jun Wu, I can't break up this array with HuaLian's man down there. I don't know. On the surface, it would seem like Pei Ming has nothing to lose by going down there and breaking up the array. He doesn't really have a tie to the Windmaster. The Windmaster hates him. So, you know, it should be no skin off his back to go down there and do that, but what do we do about this? And what would Pei Ming say in opposition? And why would he be in opposition other than that he's the fanboy president of the HuaLian fan club? I want you all to realize that I would like to wait for the manhwa. The manhwa chapter, but I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't know that that's going to happen. I think that I might have to read ahead before manhwa chapter 102 comes out. So, I mean, the manhwa is almost to the end of the volume anyway, right? And we know that Star Ember takes a break after that. So, I mean, if the manhwa chapter's a week or two late on this channel, are y'all really going to complain that much? Right? I do have other shows that I need to catch up on first. So I might make it to the manhwa chapter this weekend. However, I don't know, y'all. It's going to be real tempting to read ahead if I get a chance. We'll just have to wait and see. But I don't know what Pei Ming is going to do. It's insanity. Qi Rong is running loose in the heavenly realm. All these demons and ghosts Jun Wu has just set free. It's just like a madhouse. It's just absolute chaos. Ling Wen's a Daruma doll. We don't know about Mu Qing and what he's been told by Jun Wu. We don't know what that's going to be like. And Hua Chong is trying to stay hidden in the heavenly realm while they handle whatever they're going to do. So, and the Guoshi is hanging out back at the Palace of Ling Wen because that's all they know to do. It's crazy talk, but I'm really excited to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back real soon with the next set of chapters 223 to 225 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye.